now Councillor Neil Ring, grandnephew of Liam Ring, who translated Peadar Kearney's Soldier Song into our own Naveen.
Gorma go to Cahirloch agus Shandadordi agus Daniela. Dús tá anbuicht a gom fechan seo I gcóir leabhart faoi ma aigneacht a chur méisteach don chuiste. Mar na mínig mé ann tá anspéis le a gom I stádas agus úsáid Amhrán na Bhíon Amhrán náisiúnta. Is údar mór bhróid dom an ceangal atá gom leis, tháinig an trúr fearr atá buintach leis ó túisceart lá na Cathrach an áit ina thugad agus a rugad mise. Bei mar cheanuncail, Liam Ó Rinn, Liam Ring, Astraig ó Béarla go Gaeilge é. Cahirloch and Senators, I appreciate and it's an honour and privilege for me to be here to speak about my family's role in Amhrán na Bhíon. By way of background on Liam Ring, or Liam Ó Rinn as he became known, he was born and reared in Sackville Gardens in Ballybock in the north inner city, less than 100 metres from Croke Park that Conal mentioned so eloquently there about 2007. His four brothers, my grandfather Joseph, Leo, Christopher and Patrick, were members of C Company of the 2nd Battalion of the Irish Volunteers, who took part in the Easter Rebellion in 1916 as part of the GPO garrison. They were all subsequently interned in Frongoch, and Liam himself was also interned in Ballykinler during the War of Independence, and in fact he was with Peadar Kearney in a famous photograph in Ballykinler. Although he left formal education at 14, and again a connection with Peadar Kearney was that both of them went to St Joseph's School in Fairview. He left school at 14, but worked for the Gaelic League before becoming a member of the staff of the Translation Department in Dáil Éireann, and he was chief translator in Dáil Éireann at the time of his death in 1943. In his spare time, he was a prolific writer in Irish under the pen name Quinnock. He won the President's Prize in 1941. He was a translator of major works into Irish. He was a linguist speaking 10 languages, an accomplished artist. He had paintings accepted for exhibition in the Royal Hibernian Academy, and his life and work was the subject of the Scoil Cumann Merriman in 1985. Given this background, I would like to point out firstly some of the contextual inaccuracies in the committee's briefing documentation. And my major disappointment was that the role of Liam Ring in translating the Soldier Song into Amhrán na Bhíon was not mentioned. I would argue that the role of Peadar Kearney, Patrick Heaney and Liam Ó Rinn, Liam Ring should be highlighted equally. That's a triumvirate of men from the north inner city, all living within 100 or 200 yards of one another, who are responsible for our national anthem. My constituents in the north inner city and the people of the North Inner City Folklore Project set the example of recognising the triumvirate who were responsible for the national anthem by erecting a plaque there in 2011, which marked the centenary of the death of Patrick Heaney. That's on the corner of Railway Street and Gardner Street. Patrick Heaney died in 1911, although the committee does mention that he received payments in respect of the national anthem. I don't think he could have, and I don't think the state did. Patrick Heaney indeed died penniless in Railway Street. My granduncle Liam Ring never sought or received payment for his translation work, as he did this as his contribution to the fledgling state. He did not, as some people suggest, did the translation as part of his employment, as he had started working on the translation whilst in Frongoch in 1916. In fact, and it was mentioned earlier by Senator Daly and Conal, that the Soldier Song was sung in the GPO. It was actually also sung before the evacuation on the Friday evening, when all of them stood up, and it's in my family lore, and there are some members of Liam Ring's family still alive. His daughter's still alive, unfortunately can't be here, she's ill. He turned to his brother Christopher when they sung it and said, this should be in Irish, and that to me was the genesis of Amhrán na Bhíon. Specifically on the points, I would like the committee to take into account specifics I mentioned in my submission. I don't believe there should be any changes to either the Irish or English version. I've read and heard of proposals to change the wording to lessen the militaristic tone of the anthem. But in deference to those who wrote and translated the anthem, I don't believe we should interfere with their works. Some people have quite mistakenly assumed that the first line of the chorus, Sína Fianna Fáil, was written after the foundation of the Fianna Fáil political party in 1926, and somehow the name of the fledgling party could have influenced Liam O'Riordan's translation work. It is absolutely untrue, because the first translation was done in 1916 and completed before 1923, well before the foundation of the political party Fianna Fáil. This isn't just based on family knowledge or lore. Historian Ruth Sherry, in her article entitled The Story of the National Anthem, published in History Ireland in 1996, states that Liam O'Riordan's translation was published in the Army magazine on Tógloch on the 3rd of November 1923. More persuasive and significant is the fact that an almost identical text was printed in the Freeman's Journal on the 3rd of April 1923 under Liam O'Riordan's pen name Quinnoch. My second point would be that the government should issue guidelines for the use of the national anthem. And perhaps, as Senator Daly mentioned, there are guidelines in relation to the flag and in relation to the harp. And in fact, I have here an excellent document, the protocols and guidelines for the national flag, which were issued, which was put together by Senator Daly. And something like that, I believe, should be done. And I noticed Colonel Armstrong mentioned, as did Councillor Fitzgerald, mentioned standing to attention for the anthem. It really is galling for me to see people standing erosh at ease and not standing to attention for the anthem or putting their arms around one another. I think we need to give the anthem the due respect it deserves by people being informed, and that's what I believe this committee should be bringing in its guidelines, how to actually stand to attention for the national anthem. I would obviously support the national anthem being enshrined officially in legislation and that it be formally adopted as such, like the flag and the harp. I would also urge the committee to recommend that the national anthem be made a compulsory part of the educational curriculum and enshrined in legislation to ensure its implementation. I've spoken to many school principals over the past week or so in preparation for this, and it seems to be, yes, it is part of the curriculum, but it's up to the individual principals, and luckily enough there are a lot of principals in the country who make sure it is taught, mainly in 6th class. I would think if the guidelines, if agreed and published, should be in booklet format and distributed to every household in Ireland. And just on what the Lord Mayor of Cork has done in relation to the schools, I believe that the presentation of the national flag and the proclamation last year in the centenary celebrations was a magnificent success and brought school children to appreciate their flag and the proclamation. I hope that the committee would recommend a similar programme of events for the national anthem. And I would like to acknowledge the excellent initiative of the Lord Mayor of Cork, Councillor Tony Fitzgerald, in doing that in his area. And if I were ever lucky enough to be elected Lord Mayor of Dublin, I would be onto the phone to him and find out how he did it and do the very same in Dublin. In conclusion, I'd like to wish the committee well in its deliberations and thank yourself, Cathaoirleach, and the rapporteur, Mark Daly, for setting up the committee. Nuair atá sibh ag déanamh machnamh tásúla go mbeadh breoigh sibh go mbeadh breoibh an coiste an tábhacht atá gabhra náisiúnta I Gcultúr, Star agus Oidhreacht na Tíre. I hope you'll be mindful of the important place of the national anthem that it has in the culture, history and heritage of our country. In conclusion, the last line of the chorus of Amhrán na Bhín is Shut live Conaghy Amhrán na Bhín. I'd like to say Shut live Cuineamh Amhrán na Bhín.
Thanks very much, Neil.